12 o'clock. Thank you so much for joining our webinar. I'm particularly excited about our topic today and our guest speaker who is going to shed a lot of light on it. Just some housekeeping details for those who are just joining. If you have any questions during the course of the session, please just drop it in the chat, or you can use the Q&A feature as well. Everyone's mic will be muted just so that there are no interruptions during the meeting. I believe you have a poll in front of you. Please try to help us fill it. We just want to understand where your mind is at. We have 6 responses and we're 19 on the call. So we really appreciate if everyone were to fill their thoughts in the poll. I'd like to introduce our guest speaker while we wait. Just give me a second. So our guest speaker for today is the lovely Mrs. Adetun Akinsumi. She's the Chief of Staff at Seamless HR. She's a pivotal force in shaping the company's culture, strategy, and operational excellence while championing its commitment to gender equity. She has over 17 years of experience in human resource and customer success, and she has a proven track record of driving satisfaction and building high-performance teams. She's a recognized thought leader in the HR space. She frequently speaks at industry events like the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management of Nigeria, international conference and exhibitions, arguing that HR must be the custodian of digital transformation, ensuring technology is built by people and for people. Beyond her role, Mrs. Adeton is the program director at Codable, Seamless's HR social impact mentorship initiative that equips marginalized communities across Africa with essential digital skills, fostering genuine economic inclusion. She brings a unique perspective to the intersection of people, technology, and financial well-being. She's vital as organizations navigate today's cost of living crisis. We are so excited that she has volunteered her time to be with us today. And without further ado, I'd just like to give her the ground. Please, I encourage you all to send your questions. I encourage you all to listen all to the end because I know that she has a packed presentation for us today. Thank you so much, Mr. Adeton, for joining us. Over to you. Would you like me to share your slides or would you like to share that yourself?
Okay, you can share so that I can have more engagement. Thank you.
Okay, no
Good
problem.
afternoon, everyone. Nice to have you all here. Just to make sure that we're all here, you can just say hello in the chat. I would like that this is as interactive as possible. It's going to be fun. I like fun events, so we'll make this webinar fun. And we'll make it interactive. I'm looking forward to engaging with everybody. So please, let's just say hello, hi, nice to meet you in the chat. Okay, hello Tosin, hello Emmanuel. Hello. Hello, Yetunde, Nonso. Looking forward to a good session. Okay, Kanu, Chinemerem, hello to you. Sheyo. Okay. 5 more hellos, and then we can start presenting the slides. Peace had muted us. We could have said the hello, like with our voices, but she took away our voice on this call. It's okay. We're not mad. We will use the chat. Oh, thank you, Kanu. Hello, I love that. Hello, Patrick. Patrick has his hand up. Patrick, please will not let you speak. Please. Oh, Fatai, sorry, Fatai, I missed yours. Maybe you should have used Kanu style. I would have missed that. And then put some colors and some lights. Hello. Nice to meet all of you. My name is Adetun Akinsumi. When I read my profile, they just read that. I'm like, this is a nice one. So I ran and put it on my status so that my daughter will sit and say, see my mother, 17 years of experience. It just reminds you of how young you are. So it's good. Nice to meet you, Charles. Wasi, Jude. And if I've missed you, please let me know so that I can call out your name. Okay, thank you everyone for coming. I think we have about 40 people, so we can get started. When I saw this topic, Lamide, nice to meet you too. When I got this topic, it was like, okay, interesting topic. How do I want to run it? So I developed a structure in my head and put it together, put it on paper. And I think that by the end of this session, there'll be a bit of light at the end of the tunnel. I'm not going to be able to answer all of the questions about how you can escape the cost of living crisis. I think that is shaping and reshaping as we go. And we have to reinvent and innovate as we go, in order to escape it. If we have really good engagement, I have a surprise for us at the end of this that is not really webinar type surprise. And I'll tell you guys in the middle of it so that we can work towards major engagement. Please, could you share the slides? I've just seen a dark at your end.
Okay, let me try sharing it again. Let me try doing that again. Okay.
Okay, thank you. So cost of living is threatening the living. This is rhyming. So I write poems, so I enjoy a good rhyme. So cost of living is threatening the living. Employee engagement and retention is a cost of living crisis. So that is the topic of this series, this webinar. It's interesting, and I think that this webinar topic was interesting enough for 41 people to join, 42 plus myself. So let's break it down. Before we start, as an icebreaker, I have a very quick poll, like 3 questions that I would like us to answer so that we can just allow us to frame this conversation better. So the first one is this. So let's assume that we're all employees, not HR, not management. Do you believe, sorry, I did a bit of it, but I'll read what's supposed to be there. Do you believe that you're currently being paid? What you're currently being paid is enough to outrun the cost of living? Do you believe that what you're currently being paid, right, is enough to outrun the cost of living? Please, is there a poll that they can respond to?
Yes,
Did you create the poll?
It's already there. So some people have already filled it. I think we have a couple of responses already. Let me.
Okay, it didn't pop up for me. So
it didn't. Okay, let me check.
So the question is, do you believe that what you're currently being paid today, like what the salaries you get today, is enough for you to outrun this cost of living that is after all of us? So that's the number 1 question. The number 2 question is, can we go to number 2?
Yes, I've just reopened the poll so that anyone who missed it could fill their, it should pop up now.
Okay. The second one is, Can't says, no, my real life is in God's hand, that can't find it. Not at all. So let's answer the poll because we want to use the answer collectively, right? So the second question is, can we do the second question? So you have to use the poll because that will allow us to collate all your, to see how many people said yes, how many people said no. So the second question, I would like us to move to the second one.
So it's on the slide now, question 2.
Okay. Question 2, it's that how much % increase on your salary on your current pay, do you think will be enough? So for example, if someone says, if a genie comes out from a bottle and say, I'm going to give you a % increase, it has to be very close. So you can't just say a figure that is like, I want 1000% increase, or what I usually say, I want all the money that I have to be converted to dollars, then multiplied by 10. No, that's not that kind of thing. But what you think, based off on what you spend, how you want to live your life within reasonable bounds, how much % increase do you think would be enough for you to outrun the cost of living as it is today? Because we don't know what will happen tomorrow, but today. Let's respond to that very quickly. There's a poll also on that has the percentages. So let's click on the percentage. Now to the third and final question. Can your company afford and sustain this percentage increase for all your employees? So that today, if you have said 50, if you have said 100, if you have said 200, I want 300. If your company should decide that they want to help you to outrun the cost of living, can they afford to, and can they sustain it and continue to be a growing concern? So let's respond to that. Now, why this question and why this poll? Number one is to allow us to see that, and if you look at the responses, I don't think anybody said a yes to the first question. You know, and I'm viewing the poll. Just give me a moment. To the first question, and I see 50% for a number of people. I know that when I ran the poll with my smaller team, some wrote 200%, you know, of their pay. At the end of the day, is that the cost of living crisis, and we cannot fully solve it by pay alone, whereby as it relates to employee engagement and employee retention, because how much is enough? And how much can your companies pay out to you that they can keep you engaged and they can retain you while at it, right? So it's a question that we would attempt to answer here, and that's why we are using this as an icebreaker. It's not really embedded into the conversation, but just for us to even think and wait for the people that will be 10 minutes and 30 minutes late for this webinar. Now, to the real meat of the conversation. So when I saw the topic, if you are here and you can type the topic, don't look at anything, just type it without looking and get it correctly. Peace will give you something. I'm like, why are webinars topic? Someone said, so that you can be curious enough to join. Because if the answer is if the response or the answer is in the topic, then people might not join. But this is actually a mouthful, right? The topic of this webinar. So I felt like we should break it down. Let's examine the topic in a way that we're all on the same page on what the topic is. So there is the cost of living crisis. There is employee engagement and retention. Right. Now, let's break down cost of living crisis. It's simple. Cost of living means there's cost, there's financial elements. That means that money is involved, right? There's a cost of living, cost to carry out your life. So because there's a crisis, obviously due to higher prices of everything. I remembered when 15K could fuel your tank. And now 15K, we get to just about 12 liters. That's like a day's journey. So there is financial pressure, affecting all employees, and that is the crisis. Like there is financial anxiety. How do I get to work today? Look, if I calculate my transportation to work, it's already 50% of my pay, and a lot of people are now doing a lot of side hustles, which also puts a lot of pressure on you because you're trying to make money one way or the other to make ends meet, right? And a lot of people now, if you do a survey, I don't want to do it here because I don't want to do that survey, but if you survey people, I won't be surprised if 50% of them are not job hunting for an extra 50K or 100K on their salaries. And that is also pressure. You know, when you send out your application, you know, and you're waiting for responses or a response from those applications, you get anxious. And that's under pressure. You're hopeful, you're not hopeful, and you're going through a lot of emotions. And before you know, people start to not want to go to work because they're under a lot of pressure. And that is the reality of a lot of people, because the financial pressures that the cost of living has created is real and is high. It's a lot. Now, on the other side, there is employee engagement and there is retention. Now, employee engagement is passion, dedication, you know, bringing your heart, your body, your mind to work. You know, you're bringing innovative solutions, you're driving positive contribution, you're fully invested in the organization's success. Now, we now have a topic that is saying employee engagement and retention is now being seriously affected by the cost of living crisis that we have. And you can see that from the definition of the two, they seem very opposite. So there is pressure that is leading to burnout, and then engagement is about passion and dedication. Right. So the traits to engagement and retention from this cost of living that we currently are experiencing in Nigeria is real and it's persistent. It's not letting go. Like we can, at the moment you think that you're settling into a rhythm of what you currently earn and how much you're spending it, something else comes up. The price of turkey goes up. How much they spend a kilo of meat goes up. Transportation just goes up. Then there's a war between the US, Iran, Israel, and all of that is happening that is affecting you, things that you can't actually control. Let's do like this. So in making that connection, the cost of living pressure that we feel, it's a performance issue, right? Because if you're under a lot of pressure, it basically just leads to lower morale. If you can't feed well, if you can't transport yourself to work, people start to behave differently, right? You can't be under a lot of pressure and be expected to give your all. And I've mentioned it, there's rising cost of transportation, there's rent inflation. I speak with people that their rent used to be 500,000 and the landlord comes and takes it to 2 million with zero explanation and almost no notice. We have people depending more on us right now because you have a job, you stay in Lagos, you live in Ogba, Keja, VI, and people think you should, spend a lot more. So there's a lot more family dependency also because all of those people are also trying to meet their own needs and outrun the cost of living, basically. We call it black tax. That's also happening and it's getting heavier by the day. Next slide. Now, we've talked about how this is affecting employees, but I don't want to leave the fact that the cost of living is also after businesses, right? You speak to business owners and you know that they are also experiencing the high cost of doing business, right? So the high cost of doing business, which is, by the way, I would take it back to the cost of living. So you have energy cost, diesel is higher. To power the office is now way more expensive than it used to be. Raw materials are more expensive. Salaries, people are demanding more salaries. People want increment because they also want to meet their own cost of living. The cost of living. Vendors, for example, we because of the cost of doing business, whereby we pay SABA, which is in USD, our cost of doing business and delivering seamless HR to our customers is gone up exponentially. right? And so we go to our partners that, oh, we need to increase prices, right? And they will feel that pinch because we fed that pinch. So it's just a vicious circle. And FX instability, at least things are more stable, but it's high. And that difference that we have that erodes our purchasing power because of dollar, naira dependency also affects businesses. And look at how we also now squeeze your revenue. So it's high, the cost of living and the cost of doing business. But because people are also experiencing the cost of living crisis individually, their purchasing power has also reduced. So businesses are not able to make as much money as they would have made in the past, right? So it's almost like a two-edged sword sort of thing. There's lower sales volume. You're fighting, the competition is, it's much harder, right? Price sensitivity. People are very sensitive to prices. I was telling somebody that before, if you could afford to, eat 2 eggs, fried 2 eggs on your 100K per month salary, when egg was 20 naira or 50 naira for one, it becomes extremely difficult to do the same when egg is now 200 to 50 naira for one. And that translates to everything. That means that person selling egg, we sell less egg because people cannot buy as much egg as they used to buy before. So your profit margin also would squeeze because you have to now start thinking about your pricing. And so as the cost of living is affecting the individual, that same cost of living is also affecting the company. Next slide. So we have examined the topic, and if you want to comment on that, I'm also looking at the chart, right? Cost of living, stretching the living. Korede, Asinuke, and Damilola, you gave me half, so you get half of the score. There is a subset to that topic, and it's even longer than the initial one. So you need to give that to me. But we can continue to comment. I'm interacting with the comments. I'm looking at it. So I will pause to just engage with it because this is for us to be engaging. If you are at your desk, very soon you will need a sheet of paper and a pen and your calculator. So if you have that close, maybe your phone to use as calculator, we're going to get into some calculations very soon. So before we go into that, common responses that we have from companies. I was with a client recently, and she's in HR, and she says that the bulk of their work now, 50% of their work is recruitment, replacing people. And it's just tedious. And they're not even finding the right people at the price that they can afford. And management is saying, well, we can't afford it. If they go, we'll replace them. And there's a lot of common responses that companies would give because they're also under pressure. So it's like, well, we pay salaries, that should be enough for motivation. We know that the cost of living is real and everybody's facing the same challenge. So everybody's struggling to get the money, basically. We can't solve for inflation. So if prices are going up, are we going to solve it? And lastly, the most dangerous one, if they resign, we'll replace them. So we'll talk about that. I'm going to pause. If you want to drop a chat, this is where you can drop it. Now, to the next slide. Let's do the maths. If you have a pen, paper, let's engage. It will be fun to engage on this slide. So we're going to do a case study, just a simple case study. This is my own case study. You can use your own company as your case study, or you can follow my case study. So Tea Time Limited. I'm not sure why I came up with that name. Maybe I had a bag of tea in front of me, but the name of the company is Tea Time. And Tea Time has 200 employees. The annual wage bill for Tea Time is 200 million, right? And Tea Time makes 1.5 billion net income and their revenue is 5 billion. So if you have the figures for your own company, you can use your company. So if you have 500 employees, 20 employees, 80 employees, you can use it. If you know your wage bill, you can put it. If not, you can follow my own case study. So do we have our pen? If you have your pen, just say, yes, I have my pen. Or I'm very smart, I don't need a pen. Or I'm not interested in this case study. So let's drop our comments there. So let's write down employee number, wage bill, and all of that. And this is us just trying to do the maths so that when you're thinking about if they leave, we can replace them. We can't solve for inflation. We can't do all of these things. When you start thinking about all of that, you need to do the maths so that you're not. Thank you, Damilola. I think Damilola Adekule would probably get the first prize for engagement here today. Okay. Saifulai. Okay, thank you. So only to grab their pen. Okay, and as a pen, Atinuke. Oh, thank you. Employee engagement is a cost of living crisis. Thank you for giving us that very lengthy topic. Korede, we are still only the same set of people. Atinuke, Korede, Damilola. Okay, Fatai. Great. So let's do it. So based on my research, I went to check what was Nigeria 2025 Nigerian businesses report from Novatia Consulting says that attrition is between 30 to 40% on the average in 2025. Now, if you have for your own company, you can use your own company attrition rate. If you don't have it, you can use 30. I use 30, the lower end, so that we don't exaggerate the figure. So that's the assumption that it's 30, assuming that the annual attrition is 30. Now, another from my research also says that replacement cost can be between 50 to 20% of the annual salary of the person you're trying to replace, and can be as high as 400% for senior roles, the cost that you're going to use to replace that exited person. So let's use 100. I'm using 100, but if you know that from your own experience, you have another number, maybe it's 200, maybe it's 50, you can use your number. Now, we have what our attrition is, which is 30%. So if you apply a 30% to the numbers of employees that you have in your organization, that means that the expectation is that you have 60 people that will leave your organization within a year. I have a company that within 2 years of knowing, within the period that I knew the company, there was a period that in 2 years, they had 98% attrition. That means that of 100 people in the organization, 98 within 2 years had left and be replaced. Like, that's just mind-blowing. But by the time you have 30, assuming that you're not replacing every other person, like you're not replacing, you replace a set and a set. In 3 years with 30% attrition, it means that you will have replaced 90% of your people. So that's why attrition is very dangerous. And we'll talk more about some of the other costs of attrition and why this is important for us to act and not say it's not our problem. So now, if you do the maths, how many, if you can drop the number of how many people in your organization, if you use a 30%, is it a 60, is it 100? How many people will have left within a year if we're using these numbers? And if you have your actual attrition, also engage with us on this. Now, let's assume that everybody earns the same thing in the organization so that our maths can match, because it's difficult to use different salaries. So assuming that everybody earns the same thing, that means that the replacement cost at 100% of the annual salary is 60 million. So when people say they can leave, if they want to leave, the first cost of replacement, which is the most visible cost, we'll talk about the other cost. The first cost of the replacement, which is the most visible cost, is substantial. And if you compare it, it's 30% of your wage bill, in quote. But if you now lose the senior people, which you should be very careful of losing, right? Which is even more expensive to replace. which is even more dangerous to replace, because I've seen organizations whereby they replace a senior hire and the whole organization kaput from one bad replacement. One of a senior hire. So when you're hiring and replacing a senior person, for example, it's not just about even this 60%, it's about your culture. It's about the well-being of your employees. It's about financial result, performance of your organization. And you have to guard that if you have the right person in place already. So we have only two, I think only Korede and Damilola have dropped their exits and maybe the amount, but every other person, they don't have their pen. All of you that said, yeah, Joshua, you had your pen, you did not use your pen. Emmanuel, Matai, Anne. Okay, I'm getting new ones. You have your tab. Nice. I don't want to pronounce that name because I'm not sure how to pronounce it. And Peace has taken away our voice on this call, so we can't speak. Maybe by the end of the call, you would help me with the pronunciation. Or Reval, not sure. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, beyond replacements. So everybody we talk about, oh, the cost of attrition, replacement cost, all of that, but that's not the real cost, right? Because if you understand retention, if you understand engagement, if you understand the value of retention and engagement, then your response will not be about replacement at all. You don't want to get to the point of replacement because the real cost of attrition is way more than replacement cost. And now we'll use a good example. After you've replaced and you've paid your new hires and you've paid all of this, you have to train and onboard. There is learning curve for everybody. You have to ramp up. So if you have someone that leaves your sales team, for example, and you're replacing with a new salesperson, I'll use Seamless HR as a good example. We sell HR software to companies. For you to sell very well, you need to understand the product. You understand our sales processes. You need to understand our sales motion. You need to understand a lot of all of this, right? Before you can actually get when you're selling, you probably will have spent 3 months. So and the training, there is disruption, productivity disruption, where people are transiting in and out of the job. There is knowledge drain, because there's a lot of institutional knowledge that is resident in the people that are leaving you, especially when they've spent substantial amount of time, especially when even your main job is knowledge. You know, there's some jobs that they're like gloves, people wear, they remove and they fit. But there are some jobs that are so critical that the person that owns that job would have serious institutional knowledge that you can't mess with, and that would really impact your business. And then there's also revenue lost. I'm the director of customer success at Seamless HR today, and I know the impact of exit of one CSM to the team. Minus the fact that other CSMs we have to step in and stretch before we get someone in and wrap that person up. There's some customers that are very attached to their CSMs, and to them, if that CSM is leaving, right, is an issue. And if that relationship is not managed with the highest level of care, you may actually lose that customer. So you're not just going to lose your employee, you're also going to lose the customer. Now, based off on research, we're still going to use our company, the same company that Tea Time Limited. Gallup says that for employees that are engaged, because we're talking about retention and engagement, so we're not talking about retaining employees that are subpar or performing at average level. We mean employee that is bringing their heart, their spirit, their soul, their mind to work every day and bringing innovative solutions, that you can increase your profitability by 23% for highly engaged teams. So if you have teams that are highly engaged, if your net income is 1.5 billion naira, you can essentially increase that by 23% if your team is engaged. If you lead teams here, people that are engaged are able to do more. They're able to produce more. Their results are better. They're able to think of shorter way of doing things. And that means you might even need less people to achieve a particular goal that you usually would need. All of these things will boost productivity. Because at the end of the day, it's about your revenue and the cost. When you net it off, you get what your profit is. Same thing that from TMA, you can get 2x of your net income for engaged companies. And these are numbers, research that I did while preparing for this, that shows that the real cost of attrition is on your profitability. How profitable are you as a company can be severely impacted by letting your employee go or having employees that are not engaged in your organization. Now, we've said all of these things. We've done the case study. I'm looking at Joshua 555 and 165 exits. That's substantial. I'm looking at Atinuke 30 to 11. That's also substantial. And if they're critical hires, for example, their impact will even be more than that percentage that this will eventually be if we had calculated it. Right. And this also shows that everybody here, or at least people that add their pen and paper and decide to share with us, are experiencing some high level of attrition. Some years back, the attrition rate of most places I worked used to be around 9%, 10%, 11%. By the time you're climbing 12, 13, 14, you're worried. But today is higher. And that's because people are looking for the next best thing. People are looking for the pay that will give them extra. People are more mobile, obviously. Different things are also driving it. But at the end of the day, pay or engagement is a big driver of retention. Let's like this. So what do we do? Now, we've said all of these things. What do we do? 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 So we're going into what we will do. Now, I have this other slide, the next slide, and I'll put it in context before I show you. Last year, I spoke at the CIPM conference. And while I was there, we're talking about our engagement, employee engagement and tech and AI and all of that. And I came out with this framework, CARE, C-A-R-E, CARE. And when I was preparing for this session again, I felt to use CARE, but this one with S, CARES. And there are two different frameworks for what we would do here and my conversation at CIPM. But in preparing and just laughing at myself, I started to use a picture from a movie I watched many years ago. You can go to the next slide. And the title of the movie is I Care a Lot. If you've seen the movie, just signify that you've seen the movie. So, I mean, so since I'm deciding to use CARE framework in many of my conversations about employee engagement and all of that, well, it's to show that I care a lot. And employee, as HR, as management, as managers, we need to care. Now, if you've seen this movie, you can signify. I would like to know who has seen the movie. I care a lot. Okay, Adewale has seen the movie. Only Adewale. Have you seen only Adewale? So you people will not get the joke. It will be very funny. Okay, Sheyi has seen the movie. Tosi has seen the movie. By the way, I don't care like this woman. I care. I properly care. She was a crazy human being. The movie will leave you with some funny feelings, but I care a lot. And hence, what I'm going to talk around would be about CARES, which is cares. So the next slide. Our starts with cares, and we would have CARES. C, we'll go through what C is, ARES, and then after that, we would conclude. Now, 5 practical responses that leaders can take. So go to the next slide. I don't want us to dwell too much on it because we're going to go into each one after the other. So we have creative compensation. I call it creative compensation. Let's like this. Because from the poll that we did earlier on, and I'll break this down even more than what you see on the slide. From what we did earlier on, it's clear that just paying more salaries, giving people more, it's not likely that you would meet, like, it's not like that companies can afford to give you enough to actually outrun the cost of living, especially at your own standard where you are found for yourself, right? So for some people, if you give them an extra 500K, they will outrun it. In fact, they will be flying before they get settled and then they start looking for more. But for some people, you might need to give them 10 million before they can start to outrun it because they have very big taste. But it's not likely that your company can pay you everything, right, to outrun it. And in companies in structuring it, it's important that companies, the creative alternative is sort of like a safety net in a way. It's not to answer, it's not to answer everything. Can I speak to that also? That 10 million is for us. Don't be selfish. It's for all of us on this call. We will take it, we'll grab it, and we'll run with it. And then, so I looked at it, and one of the biggest challenges for employees that are, entry level, some years of experience, your analysts, your associate, and all of that, what takes a lot of their income is transportation to work. Before, you could take a bus wherever to work and you will spend 800 naira to get to work, maybe even 500, and to and fro is 1,000 naira, right? But now you would have that same person spending 4,000. If it's possible within your organization to give stipend for transportation, it's a way to alleviate that pressure. Because remember that we are talking about the pressure of the cost of living crisis, and a way to take away a bit of that pressure. Now, that's not going to take away everything, but to take it away so that that employee is not coming to work thinking about how they will get to work, right? That they're like, how will I even get to work today? It's the 15th of the month and I can't see getting to work, right? If you can take that pressure away, either by the stipend, either by organizing some bulk transport, whatever the way you have to be creative about how you can reduce that. Now, I don't encourage giving them money, just giving extra that is not particularly for transportation, because it's possible that they use it for something else, right? And then they still find it difficult to come to work. But you have to start thinking, if fuel should move this much, you can't say it's none of your business. So it's important that we start thinking about that. Where I used to work before also some years back is that once you come in, as soon as you come in, it was a big organization. They will ask you, where do you stay? Okay. That time I stayed in Agboju, First Stack area, and my office was at Ikoyi. And the moment they would, and then they will look within the organization, and you can do it on a more HR level or manager level, so you know where your people live. So you go, okay, you stay in Agboju, okay, Ikechukwu, actual person's name actually, stays in First Stack. So they will take you from your department and introduce you to Ikechukwu and tell Ikechukwu that you will be taking Tone to work, to and fro, so that because she's an analyst, entry level, she will not be able to, it will be easier that because you have a car so that you can take her. And we pulled transportation. Now, it seemed like, but for me, it was life-changing, because if I had to come to work by myself, obviously there was not even boss and all of that, and I could not even afford it on the salary that they were paying me as an analyst. But imagine that from Agboju, I'll take a bike to my junction. From that, I'll take a bus to Mile 2. Then I'll take Obalende. From Obalende, and I'll get Ikoyi. From Ikoyi, I'll now walk to work. That's 5 public transport system before. Well, four public, 1 private. My leg is the private one. But the idea is that I end up spending a lot of time. I'm tired before I get to work. How am I going to be innovative? And then that will also have taken like 20-30% of my salary. So they did that with everybody. And so if there were 4 people that stayed in Festac area, all I had to do was just get to a bus stop or where I'm on the road, that is safe, that IK will pick me up and bring me to work. And if I can't go with IK, there was Shew, there was Nika, there was other people I could go with. And they made a structure out of it. And somehow that person was also sort of responsible for you, right? So they won't leave without checking to say, Tom, are you ready to go? And that was a system within the organization. So it's a creative way. The company is not spending a lot more, but they know that the managers could afford to fill their car and they would help us to get to and fro from work. So for the time that I was there, I can't remember ever taking public transport. I would just make sure that I'm on time and I did not keep Ikechukwu waiting. Meal support are also important. If you can do it. If you have cafeteria, but I will take transport over meal any day. And this was from surveys that we did, whereby people will be like, I can find food. If I eat egg roll and all of that, I'll be fine. I can move fast. I can skip a meal, but I have to come to work and it's way more expensive. So you have to think of the one that would work for your employees based off on your location, based off on a number of things, where your company is situated. And some people don't even know where their company sits and where the bulk of their employees come from, for example. Have you done the mapping? Do you know how you can creatively help a bulk of your employees to get to work easier? You know, data is life, right? I put that there. I love that Airtel advert on data is life. And in that, in giving people data, for example, it helps engagement in a way whereby, you know how data takes away when you're able to browse, you're able to do all of those things. And your body just gets lifted because you had a good laugh, right? And then by the time you come back to work, you're more engaged. But imagine that you're struggling with data, you're having to turn off your phone every minute, turn it off, turn off your data because you're using 1 gig for 2 weeks. You know, ridiculous because you can't afford it. But if your company has that covered, there's that mentality that it gives to you. They give you data, it helps you reduce the pressure just by giving you some leeway. Now, performance bonus, obviously, I can't leave this place without saying how important performance bonus is. And I always tell companies, if you can run your performance bonus quarterly, whereby you can pay out bonus at intervals within the year, and it doesn't have to be a lot of it, but when people are getting something that is outside of their normal salary, it helps with how they perform because this is linked to their performance and performance of the organization, and is also linked to how their own self-worth. I did this and I got this, right? So it's a win-win situation. I will speak a bit more on salary advance and early wage access because senior HR offers end wage access, for example. And there's dignity in accessing fund without having to go to some of these funny loan apps when your company can actually give you an advance when you need it, as quickly as you need it, or even pay you allow you to access the amount of money you've worked for. So that some pressure that comes, things that you've not planned for, someone is taxing you, black tax, and is calling you, I'm stuck somewhere, this. And that doesn't become a major burden in your heart that you just quickly say, okay, I've worked for 15 days, give me 10%, 20% of what I've worked for, and you're able to settle your bill and put your mind at rest. That's also very important. And then some companies also do flexible pay cycles that helps people to not, some people like it, some people don't like it. So you have to understand what works for people. Me, I like it, but we don't do it. So maybe my HR is on this call. I like flexible bi-weekly option for my salary so I can get it on time. So if you like it, if your HR is a better typist so that they can action it for you. But it also helps for people. In the US, they pay bi-weekly. They don't pay because a month is also a very long period. And we find out that a lot of times when people get paid on the, let's say, 25th, by 10th, 11th, 12th, they're done. That money is gone, you know, and they're waiting for the next one. And that also puts a lot of pressure on people, basically. Yes, Korede, I used to live Agboju, not even First Aqua, Agboju inside to Ikoyi. And then my office now moved to VI, which is further inside. Then I had to move. So I moved to Surulere so that I could keep sane. Okay, next slide, please. So I'm looking at the time so that appreciation and recognition. Before that, I would like to mention, we know that Bastion Health is the one powering this webinar. So I will talk also about a creative way to ensure that your employees don't worry about health. If you have to pay for medical out of pocket in Nigeria, you know that it can bankrupt you. And the small amount of money you are saving for your future, it will erode it. So getting a good HMO partner to ensure that your people are covered is very important. So that is a good way to also ensure that you create some level to remove some of the pressure that your employees might actually feel. Another one is recognition. I know a lot of us know about recognition and all of that, so I won't dwell on it. But it's important that you recognize people. If I'm putting a lot of work into the organization, nothing erodes my engagement more than not being recognized for my work. Like even God wants you to say thank you to him. If God, that is perfect God, asks that you say thank you, like how will it be that me, mere mortal, would do something and give my all to the organization and they won't notice? You must notice so. And those kind of things can chip away at people that if they don't get the right recognition and the right appreciation for what they've done for the organization, they can become very disengaged. They will be in your system, but they will not produce. And all the value you should earn from it, they won't get it. So I'm under pressure at home. I can't make ends meet. I jump 4 bikes to get to work. I just say, oh, you came. But if I come early, if you notice that someone comes in early every day for the last few weeks, you should notice and you should appreciate that. You can't say their job is to come early. All those things don't work. It can't be their job too. We need to appreciate people. I build a thank you culture. Saying thank you is such a low-hanging fruit. And this is for all managers. You have to learn to say thank you. You have to learn to appreciate. You can't say it's their job, so they should just get on with it. That is not a good, it's a very negative way to manage your team and to push them towards engagement. So you're looking at managers check-in, you're celebrating milestones. By the way, I celebrate my own milestones. Funny enough, I appreciate myself also. And you have to also encourage your employees to celebrate milestones and appreciate themselves. I remember in my 3rd year at Seamless HR, I actually did a cake. I brought it to the office. And I wrote 3 years, don't waka. I actually did for myself to say, and I'm going to be 7 years next month. And I plan to do another cake to celebrate myself for spending 7 years at Seamless HR. And people must have that mentality because it also keeps you going. It also keeps you safe. And last year, I was actually in our office in Kenya, and they actually got a cake to celebrate my 6 years at Seamless HR. My point is that those little things, they count. They make you feel like you belong. And if your employees feel like they belong, they stay. If I feel out of place, if I come to work and I'm not happy, no matter how much you pay me, I won't stay. And if I stay, I won't give my best. But if I feel like my contributions are noticed, if I feel that what I do matter and is recognized, and my milestones are recognized, then I would stay. I had my partner, the partner that was the partner of the department where I used to work before. For every single event that you have in your life, weddings, baby dedication, anything that is important, it would show up. It doesn't matter if you're from Kogi or Anambra or you're from Nasarawa, he would take a plane and he would be there at your event. If the event is if he has 4 events in Lagos, 4, the same day from employees that work with him, he would jump from one event to the other. So his Saturdays are booked, not by anything for himself, for his employees. And he says they spend most of their life at work. The least I can do for them is to show up. So ask yourself in your mind of mine, do I show up for people, my employees, for them to know that they matter and I appreciate them? So I'll leave that thought in our minds. Judge yourself. Let's move to the next slide. Now, the next slide is real flexibility. So I called it real flexibility because a lot of us, we've created some fake flexibility whereby it's flexible, but it's not flexible. Or you're less flexible, when you pull it, it will cut. We have to really give people real flexibility. And I put some amount here for you. Assuming that someone's transportation is 1,000 naira or 2,000, let's say their transportation is 2,000 naira per day to come to work. If you say they should come 50% of the time and work from home 50% of the time, you're not putting money in their pocket, but you've saved them 250K in transportation per annum. I know that if someone is earning 200, 300K in your organization, if you're going to increase their pay, you're not increasing it by 240K. What I'm saying is that by just having real flexibility and allowing people to work hybrid, you are saving money. I was speaking to somebody just before this call, and someone said, the only reason I'm staying with my organization today is because of hybrid work. Because I will not take a job that will pay me double, even if it's double, if I can't work from home. And we have to start thinking about that seriously. I know that people are saying, oh, people will not work from home. That's a cultural issue that you need to fix. If someone is not working from home and diligent, I can assure you that they're not diligent in the office. A diligent employee that is engaged will be diligent either at home or in the office. And I know people that, in fact, for myself, I get more done at home than I do in the office sometimes. Because in the office, when you have all of the interactions, don't one moment, this impromptu meeting, people are coming to your office, they're signing this, they're wanting that. So you can't even do a lot of deep work because the office will be for socializing and making sure that you see everybody and everybody sees you. And then flexible hours. Some people, so for example, if you have people that, some people, because of where they stay, Ikorodu gangs, Badagry gangs, and Lakwe people gangs, if they're coming to VI, for example, some of them leave the house at 4 a.m. as early as that. If you have some level of flexibility whereby if you leave by 4, you get here by 6, I allow you to close by 2 o'clock. And giving them that kind of flexible hours so that they are able to optimize the fact that they came early and avoid the traffic, and they get home by 3, and they have the half of their day to even do some of their other things, maybe even side also that will allow them to earn more, they will stay. Then about output-based management, which is also important, which allows you to actually run your hybrid and your flexible hours more. You gain a lot of money and you gain a lot of productivity. I know for myself that it's important that you have that kind of flexibility. You can't be rigid. Now, there's some roles that you cannot do from home, which is, a doctor can say, I want to work remotely. Some people can say, I want to work remotely. But if that's the case, then their compensation also reflects that, right? So you don't treat everybody like they're the same. So you can be hybrid, you can be this, so they can be able to actually be creative in how you structure people's pay, structure their compensation, because we know now that one size cannot fit all for rewards compensation, and your philosophy must be flexible. And that's about the real flexibility. Next slide, please. Employee growth. For a lot of people, they will say organizations where they feel they're growing. And we have to really, really create that avenue for growth. Now, I will separate growth from promotion, but we'll still talk about promotion. Learning and growing is essential for any professional. And if you can create a learning, culture within your teams, it doesn't have to be org-wide. And that's one of the things I did with the customer success team. We from the moment that we built the team to now that I'm even more like not in the every day there is learning session, learning at least an hour, twice a week, every Wednesdays and every Friday. So imagine your team soaking in so much learning the product, learning to be better customer success advocate, learning to do other skills, all of that happening every day. Look at how many hours they will have used learning in the year. That's minus all of the other learnings they will do. So let's do that. 52 times 2. That's 104 hours of learning in a year, just because they belong to that team. And a lot of them are a lot better, and their prospects are better. And if you see that happening to you, that will keep you motivated and keep you engaged. I know someone that after he left the CS team, he called me and said, wow, that where he is now, there's no learning, there's no book review, because we used to take a book, do a book review, like, so that you are the best at your work and you are enjoying what you do. Internal promotions are important, but you need to also explain to people that promotions cannot be, it's not automatic. There's a lot of, even if you are doing great, there are a lot of conditions to fulfill, which is number one, is there space? If I'm the head of something and I'm still there, we can't share have two heads. So people need to understand that, and they need to understand what drives those kind of things, so that they're not disgruntled and they're murmuring. But if there are ways to encourage your employees, that you don't groom them to grow, and then you got hiring whereby you have disengaged employees. So you have to start thinking about internal promotion, developing your workforce and all of that in a way that they can step into role and they can see the prospect within the prospect within the organization. And lastly on this is career path. It's important to have like a clear career path. One of the most asked questions when I have interviews with people, when I say, okay, do you have a question for me, is they want to know the career path for the role they are joining. It's very important for people coming in, but it's even more important for people that are already in your organization, because they want to know. If it's not clear, they are applying for other jobs. I tell you, if people they're not sure of the next step, they're applying for another job. So it's very important that you're very clear and the organization is clear, no matter how small your organization is. And I always tell people that it doesn't have to always be vertical. It can be horizontal. I've had people that they can see that, okay, I'm in customer success, but there's opportunity for me to go into product management. There's opportunity for me to go into marketing, to go into sales. And there are a lot of people that have moved, even at the same pay, at the same level, but they're able to expand. And the organization is not thinking about people like that. Then they're going to leave. And I want to say it here that it's not the managers, it's not the HR managers departments. It's not the HR managers department's responsibility to do all of these things. They will give you the framework, but managers are key. So if you're HRA, you have to start thinking about how you're developing your managers to have these conversations and to be able to do this effectively. And if you are a manager A, you're also thinking of, this is my team. I have the responsibility first for the engagement and for their retention. Next slide, please. Peace, are you with us?
Yes, I've changed the slide already. I think it's network.
Oh, okay, maybe my network.
Let me go back.
Okay, so safe leadership communication. I needed to add this one because we could have stopped at care, but I've had experience where there are things happening within the organization, and in my some places I've worked, and everybody's just, so maybe prices have gone up, food has gone up, and everybody's just, we don't know. And people will form their own narrative because leaders are quiet. You don't know if you should ask your manager, you don't know if not to ask, you are going through a lot, you can't discuss it. You're wondering, maybe they see what's going on. Why are they not doing anything about it? It's important that during hard times, you're not silent, you're not quiet, you're not letting them figure it out. And it starts with having candid conversation to say that you understand. Here is what we can do, and tell them what you can do. Transparency I hear on the side of transparency that you should be open with your with your employees. If you have a runway of 10 months, you've already done all of the calculations. If employees come, you can show them that if I do this, this is what will happen. But obviously, you'll have built some level of trust, to do all of that. But it's not that you don't just keep quiet. You have to have those conversations. You have to have open conversations. You have to have regular check-ins, and you have to listen. And when you listen, it's not just listening for listening's sake. Someone used to say that then there was the military head of state that when you come to him, you say noted. You say noted, noted. Then after like maybe a few months, you now go and say, sir, you said noted, though, but nothing. He said noted now, but it's not saying noted for action. So don't be that person that will say noted, but not action it. If you note it, you have to communicate what you're doing or what you're not doing, what you will not do, because that dialogue allows people to keep being engaged and believing in your vision and in you as a leader or in you as a manager. So it's even important that as managers, leadership communicates to you so that you can communicate correctly downwards, right? Yeah, let's move on to the next slide. We're almost done. Valerie Julius, hi. Very interesting. Thank you. Very good insight from Charles. Thank you. Oh, that's good. My boss has a good thank you and an appreciative culture. And you can put how that makes you feel, share how that makes you feel in the chat so that others can read it. I say empathy is your cheapest retention tool. And this is really not from the last conversation. You can't ignore. And that's where it starts. You can't act like it doesn't matter. As a manager, you must be ready to have those hard conversations. You can't just snub it off, because we can see that the real cost of attrition and poor engagement is not just the 60 million that you will lose. It's potentially hundreds of millions. So you have to really have those conversations. You have to lead from an empathetic point of view. You have to understand that people are going through a lot. And whatever is in your power to do as an employee, as an employer, as the leader, as the HR, put it together in the form of a plan or strategy and deploy. No, and there's no dancing around it. So we've mentioned flexibility, we've mentioned recognition, we've mentioned communication, we've mentioned growth, we've mentioned better management. You said you never put pay here, because like I said, you can't pay enough for many people to outrun this, because as you are running, the cost of living is flying. So how do you want to outrun something that is flying, right? And don't pretend that it doesn't exist. Don't tell people be grateful you have a job. I think that thing would irritate anybody. They're already grateful they have a job, but they want to be able to enjoy their life to a reasonable extent, right? Don't delay salary talks. People sometimes they when people are asking for more or they want to have conversation about compensation, people will drag their feet and they will frustrate the person that is having the conversation. Now, if I want to talk about compensation with my boss, I'm already uncomfortable having that conversation. Like, bringing it up is not the most pleasant. I'm not talking about a movie. It's something that I might have thought about, spoken with my spouse. It's a sensitive situation and a sensitive conversation. If I now bring it up and you now delay it or you make me feel anyhow, don't be assured that until that issue is resolved, my performance is at 20%. Because that's the only thing on my mind. But if you come and we have the conversation immediately and you say, Tom, I really can't do anything at this moment. This is it. This is what I can do. This is what we can do. Is there any other way we can do? Maybe you should increase your work from home. Maybe this, other creative ways. I'm able to go back to work. But you delay that conversation. I'm just waiting for that to happen. And by that time, if you calculate my salary and remove 80% of how much you are losing, by just not having that conversation. Now multiply it across the organization, see how much you're going to be losing. And then micromanaging stressed out employees, like you can't add pressure to people that are already pressurized, right? It's important that you're able to cut people some slacks. I'm not one of those people that cut people slacks all the time, right? But you should be able to read the situations as leaders, as managers, as employees, to be able to say, okay, you know what? You understand that and you don't micromanage and put extra pressure on people, right? Because it will only boomerang. And lastly on this is ignoring toxic managers. Like cost of living cannot be chasing my life. The toxic manager will be chasing me. I'll now be between the sea and the serpent or something like that. My point is that you cannot let people that would multiply the pressure remain within the organization. So in retention, in cost of living, and this is me tying it up because we are almost at the end of this, you can't think about cost of living crisis and the pressure is being as only money, as only paying more, because you can never do that. You can never really, but you have to think about what other things you're going to create, the kind of culture, atmosphere, the kind of organization that you can create that people would remain and be able to handle the pressure and be happy to come to work and innovate, and knowing that they would also share in the success of the organization. And that is a very important thing for us to think deeply about. Next slide, please. Okay, so my final thoughts. I just put together some thoughts here, whereby, so what has worked in some places, so they're just random thoughts, and I put them under employee engagement and management. So one of the places I worked was for employee engagement. They had a small employee engagement committee pulled from different cadre departments in the organization. The committee will come together. HR was not a member of that committee. HR was like a guide, but they weren't infused into the committee. And the committee will come up with creative ways that works for them because they are employees, and that will not cost the organization a lot, that will actually engage them. And that committee, before the implementation from the company, the employees were agitated. They wanted to unionize. They were not engaged, because when your employees start to agitate for unionization, you start to wonder something is wrong. But after the committee and all that stopped. Basically, like they came down, they knew that the organization was listening to them. And that's why it's important to have regular check-ins, act on the feedback promptly. So you don't form a committee, they give you feedback, you don't act on it, then you lose all the trust. One thing I wanted to know is that we assume that managers already know how to be managers, and that's a lot of mistakes that people make. You have to coach managers on how to show empathy. So managers don't know how to do it. So if you are running an organization, you think they know, they don't know. And they're disengaging your employee, one employee at a time. Train people on how to manage stress. Some people don't know how to manage stress, and they bring that stress to work. So train them. The stress will be there. Things will stress you. One phone call can derail your day. How do you manage that stress? And it takes skills to manage stress. Just don't manage it by chance. So help your employees to know how they will manage stress. Supporting their well-being is important. People act like your well-being is your well-being, but the collective well-being of your employees is the well-being of your organization. So if you are very unwell employees, your organization is unwell. It's never just about what you make, how much performance financially, but generally as an holistic organization. Last two things is also that you have to get in front of it, right? So you have to understand your whole organization. Who are the key man risk? Who are this? How do you do all of that? And do predictive retention. Because a lot of times, all employees are not equal. If you lose one, it's like you lost 10. And if you lose some other people, it's like goodbye. So you have to do predictive retention so that you're not losing the best hands. That's because you want to make sure that your best hands are the most engaged and they're the ones that you're retaining. And you weed off the ones that are not engaged and the ones that are not performing. Lastly, and this is what we use for our team here, because you can't help it. People will move. Either they japa, they get a bigger deal, they relocate to their hometown, they go to farming, whatever the case may be, there will be exits. We don't want it to be 30, we want it to be 10%. But whatever percentage leaves, we want to ensure that you're strengthening how people come in and how knowledge is being transferred so that disruption to your business and to engagement within your organization is not so harmful, right? So put a processes in place that makes it easy for people to come in and get wrapped up very quickly and be able to deliver to the organization. I just note from our case study and just a general note here is that the companies that win talent respond now, like they respond now, they respond faster, they are more humane. You can't turn a blind eye. And when you prioritize your employee well-being by giving them creative compensation, by caring, by my care framework, because we care a lot, you can increase your profitability by 23% and you can lower your turnover by as high as 43%. So thank you, everybody. We're going to Q&A. So we would like to engage. If you have questions, if you have, next slide, if you have questions, if you have appreciation, appreciate me, appreciate. Thank you. So if you have questions, if you have thoughts, if you have feedback, if you want to add one or two things to this conversation to make it even richer, this is the time. And thank you so much, everyone, for your contribution and for your attention. It's been very fun, and I hope you had as much fun as I did. Q&A.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Adetun. I learned a lot. I am very sure that many people on this call also learned a lot. You already have questions, actually. Someone has already typed a question. So let me just start with that while we wait for other people. Please, if you have a question and you want to ask it in person, just raise your hand and we would unmute your mic. But if you don't want to speak, you can just drop your question in the chat and I will read it out for Mr. Adetun. Okay, so the first question is, if salary increases aren't immediately possible, how do you convince employees that creative compensation isn't just a corporate workaround? This question is from Areval.
Okay, Areval, thank you for that question. So is a trust thing. If as an organization, the employees can hold you to what you say, if you practice what you preach, like that's the foundation. You can say, we can't pay you now. Hold on. We will pay you when we can. Number one is that employees must know without a doubt, or maybe small doubt, but they must know 70-80% that that is the true situation of things. So it's not that you say we can't increase salaries and your MD flies private jets, the same MD has 17 cars, the same MD has ridiculous and is seriously spending, then they will never believe you. Because at the end of the day, people stay when they trust that you mean what you say and you say what you mean. So number one is that you have some level of trust capital that you have gained from your employees. Number two is that they see that this is actually the fact that it is. And number three is that what is that creative compensation? Because if you say creative compensation, you can't increase salary, but you map out where everybody comes from and you're able to give them a stipend that will cover 50% of their transportation. Now, if you calculate that 60% and their replacement cost, probably 10% of their replacement cost, and I'm sure that would keep people within your organization. So it's not creating competition whereby it's just something that it has to be tangible. If it's flexibility, it has to be real flexibility, right? Because let me, and this is from experience. The times that I have felt I needed to leave an organization, it had never been about the pay. And if you survey 100 people, the time people want to leave, not that someone comes and say, oh, there's an opportunity, that people start to actually eagerly want to leave a place and they're searching for a job vigorously, applying, all of that. It's not usually about the pay. Most times it's about lack of appreciation, zero career growth, lack of clarity, toxicity, and all of that. So in creating a culture that keeps people, as compensation is one pillar, there are 7 other pillars. Or I don't know, I just said 7, it can be 20, but many other pillars that you can erect to allow people to trust and believe. So, and to cap that up is that if you can't increase salaries, another creative way is that tell people this is the target, this is what we want to make this year. We want to make this amount of money. And if we make this amount of money in Q1, 10% of what we make, we will pay it out as bonus. You can't increase your pay. And the good thing is of using bonuses, number one, people anticipate, and they must know that you will pay it. That's one. Number two, people work towards it. Number 3 is that you're not dipping into what you don't have because you are paying them off what you make. Number 4 is that you don't have to now pay pension, paying all those things on it, because if you add to people's salary, the other side means that you pay more pension for that salary, they pay more, and that's the extra cost for you, right, as an employer. So that creative way is that you structure in a way that people work towards a particular goal and you give them what they worked for. And I think that's the strongest part of this creative compensation, which is tied towards result that people can see, they can appreciate, and they can believe that you give to them. So if you can't increase their salary, if they perform, they get something, and it's not after a whole year, it's quarterly. And if at the end if it's 4th quarter, they did not miss the year 1, there's a clawback, obviously, but find a way to creatively create it for your people. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We have another question. This is from Chioma. She's asking if an HR leader implements the CARES framework today, what are 2 to 3 metrics they should track to know that it is actually working?
Okay, so I mean, number 1 is engagement. Because the CARE framework is for you to drive up engagement, drive up product profitability, drive down attrition. So, for example, if your attrition trend in the last 4-5 years is being a particular number, right? And you can break down the type of attrition so that you are clear. So there's attrition of high-performing employees, right? What attrition did we have there? Attrition on average performing employees, attrition of not so good employees. You have attrition that is voluntary, attrition that is involuntary. You can break it down so that you're not just clumping attrition together. Like I said, attrition is not the same. If you lose someone that is high value, it's like losing 10 people, right? 10 people, it's almost like that. So if you're able to say, okay, I don't want my attrition of high performing employees, it's for the past 3 years, it's been 20, 25 or 40, because high performing, they move faster. Because if I implement this CARE framework, I want to drive it down to 10. And then you can now have creative ways from having clear conversation, communication, to one-on-ones with them, all of that to drive that down. That's a key metric that you can really use. Engagement score, right? How engaged are people? Some people, even in your up to your department, you can actually say, so error rates, for example, errors are usually higher when people are not engaged, right? So if you are in a department whereby you can actually track error rates within a department. Okay, how many of the error rates, or even first response resolution, for example, if people are engaged, you can see how they respond fast and resolve issues faster. So at the end of the day, you can link it up to a lot of metrics within the organization. But the clear one is your attrition, your engagement score. For example, it can be your employees' net retention, net promoters score rather, net promoter score. How many of them will recommend your organization? Because if this place is great, I want other people to work there. So for example, what was your score before? Was it 10? Do you want to take it to 15? And if that is it, that means you're able to attract people because you are now a better organization for it. And profitability. If people are engaged, I tell you, profitability doubles. If you have a good employee, a really good one, an engaged employee, I tell you that that one engagement will probably give you better productivity and than 3 put together. So you can track all of that. You can track productivity, you can track output, but those metrics we need to tie to what your core operation and your core business is. Okay, Charles, I've read Charles' question. We talk about empathy and where should you draw the line? Number one is that I don't even think I'm not seeing it in terms of line, right? And that's why it's important that no matter how small your organization is, and no matter how big it is, that you have structure. You have a framework. You have what you do, what you can't do, what you stand for, what you don't stand for, right? And like I said, compensation is just one pillar. So affordability as it comes to money is just one pillar. Now, but are you standing for whereby people can talk to people anyhow and it's okay because they are the boss, and layering an additional level of pain on the employee? Is that culture? So that's what I decide. Now, if you are thinking about how much can I support my employee, is also a two-way thing. Because if your employees must be high performing and responsible. So that it's not that, oh, I understand that transportation is high and then you are late to work every single day. Or you tell them to work from home, but they say because they don't have lights, they could not, they missed the meeting and they didn't work for that whole day. Now, that one is just bad behavior. And so in creating structures and guiding rules that works for your organization on what you're trying to drive, and training your employees and your employers on the acceptable behavior, right, is how you're able to manage and scale this. So it's not that everybody just be doing empathy. My own manager, I'll do my own empathy. Your own, you do your own. You allow your people to be. No, there is an acceptable behavior. And a good acceptable behavior, for example, is that if you're coming to a call with me as an employee of Seamless HR, you better be coming with your videos on. That's my own acceptable behavior. Because if you're working remotely, I still want to see your face so that we are engaging. Right. So I can't say because I'm empathic, your bandwidth, that I won't, because I know that there's more engagement with videos and I can get more done. And if you've done video calls for a while, it will be very hard for you to do just voice call, because video calls means that you can because communication, we know the communication is like what you say is just 20%, right? 80% is how you say it, your tone, your facial expression, and all of that, right? So I can't say because I'm empathetic, I will cut corners, or I will go and get a loan to pay you more salaries, or I will go and do. There are things that within the frame of what it is can work. I hope that answered your question.
Yes, because he also asked another question, but before there's another question here by Kanu. What are business leaders getting completely wrong about employee engagement in this season? Something that sounds right on paper, but is actually backfiring in practice.
I'll have to think about that. What are they getting wrong in this season? So I think that people thinking engagement is all this kumbaya party, coming together to have fun time. I mean, it's good though. It's very good to have it. But sometimes also, I might not be a party person, but you force me to come to a party because it's an office party. And you think that that is just what engagement means. Or I think that that's one of the things people get wrong, whereby you think that one thing, one activity in a year, right, can fix it. It makes sense. You spend a lot of money to do the deco and all of that, can actually fix the engagement issue, communication issues, and all of the layers of issues within your organization. And I see a lot of people doing all of these fanciful things that is colorful, beautiful office morale on the wall, and everywhere. But at the end of the day, it sounds good that people are being initially a lot of startups and all of that, but it's not really doing anything. Yeah. So that's one. On what backfires. And I think another thing is that some people do what will not work for their operations. And you have to think about yourself in developing what strategy works for you. Because if you go and copy strategy A that doesn't actually work for your operation, for your market, and you go and copy and paste it without really thinking about what works for you, thinking that, oh, because someone has done it, it's going to backfire. You have to really, really customize this for yourself.
Another question from Charles, the last one,
Charles.
yeah, the last question, yes. How can HR strategically manage a workforce situation where budget constraints prevents hiring additional staff, yet existing employees are visibly overworked and at risk of resignation? What practical interventions or support systems are most effective in retaining talent under these conditions?
Today I'm smiling. I'm just smiling, because I was expecting this question. So I'm happy that it was asked. So Charles, Peace owes you a gift. Peace, you have to give Charles a gift because he asked that question.
No problem.
So number one is thank God for AI. I'm telling you, the fact that there's constraint should lead to some level of innovation. And the fact that we now have AI as a rail to be able to do the things that will have taken you months to be able to do in a day or two, you have to leverage it. Leverage it individually, leverage it organizationally. At every level, departmentally, you have to look at your processes. If you see that you can't hire, there are no people, you have to look at your process end to end. Where am I leveraging automation, AI? And it doesn't have to be expensive. There are a lot of free tools. You just need to research on them. There's some of, if I was saying this jokingly that if I get a job, a new job is to prove myself. I'll just subscribe to like 10 different AI tools for 10 different things. And I'll just be doing them, say this guy is a performer. I'll just be using AI. And if you have to train your people to think like that, because at the end of the day, for them to reduce their own burden, they have to find smarter ways to do their job. If they're not finding smarter ways to do their job, everybody's going to suffer. Even here, you're not hiring much again because you're thinking, where can I optimize and do better. So it's very important. Now, if you have a situation whereby AI cannot help, which I doubt, there are situations that most of it AI will help, but you have situations that AI can't help. It's a physical task and there's no automation, there's no machine, there's nothing, and all of that. Dialogue. Because at the end of the day, if your people are already maxed out, you have to show the true cost. If you're not showing, if you're just saying, the cost of process is this, the cost of this, if you're able to show error rates are high, these are this, these are this, this are that, there is no businessman that wants to make money that sees that they're losing because of the fact that they can't replace, and they can, but they're saying no, won't do that. If not, the company is not a going concern, and you should be, even you that you're HR there, you should be worried and be dusting your own feet to live. So those are the ways that you can actually help to retain. And with all the other things also, create a great place for your people so that they feel like coming to work is enjoyable. Like you should want to come to work. So one of the things that, and I'll use myself as a good example. I love seamless HR. And when I say I love seamless HR, it's a lot of things I love about seamless HR. But one thing I enjoyed the most is the fact that seamless HR is in Ikeja. I live in Ikeja, so proximity works for me. I'm in my house in 10 minutes. Number two is that they're very family welcoming. That means that when my kids, when they finish from school in the afternoon, evening, they come to my office and they stay and we go home together. Now, as someone that family is important to me, that is not cash in my hand. But because my company has created a culture or a situation that allows me to my kids to come in, sit down, they're free, they mingle with the other employees, they attend most of our events. In fact, my team will count them as part of the if we're doing the event, they will count them. And other employees are also able to bring their kids. Sometimes they will meet each other. If I'm going to go to another company that won't give me that, you have to pay me times 100, because you have to be able to quantify some other things. And you as HR must help your employees. And a lot of people make that mistake, to quantify what you give them. So when you give your employees stuff, you give them flexibility, you give them all of these things, make sure they know that is a benefit. Because sometimes you do these things, but they don't know, they're not aware of it. And then they go and take another offer. And the person is paying them 15K extra. But they've lost flexibility. They've lost hybrid work. They've lost access to the gym that they had. They've lost tea in the morning tea, or some pastries. They've lost all those things because you've not quantified it. I know a company that they will quantify everything they give you, add it together, and they tell you, they let you know. Some people, for example, they go to companies whereby their pension, the way they structure their payee, only 20% is housing, basic and transport, only 20. So that the pension that they are paying is like this. You now leave a company whereby 80% is basic housing and transport, and go to a company that's 20%. And so they've robbed you of your pension, but you won't know because your net is a little bit more. If you don't educate your employees to know this, they will live without knowing that they have actually lost value. So it's also important to let them know. We are really, really out of time.
Thank you so much. We all enjoyed ourselves. Thank you very much, Ma. I believe I speak for everyone when I say that this was very educative. I'm speaking with some of my colleagues who joined, and they're like, wow, they learned a lot. Thank you so much for taking our time with us. Thank you. If anyone has any extra questions, leave them in the chats. We'll try to get back to you. We'll send it directly to Mr. Adetun and try to get back to you. Thank you very much. And she has already done a very good job of being a brand ambassador. So if you're HR here and you're not yet using Seamless HR, you are wrong. You are wrong.
And
Thank you so
also
much,
having
ma'am.
your employees having end wage access. So if you already using Seamless HR, or you want to come on board, we actually do give end wage access to people, 0 interest. People can come in. I've accessed it before when I had, and I'll tell you a very funny story. I was traveling and I put money on my card, and they said no, I needed to hold cash of one ridiculous amount. I just went downstairs. I just quickly requested for end wage access, and in under 30 seconds, the money was in my account. I was able to convert it to the currency and then move. So those kind of things, you want to give your employees that. You want to give them more benefits. You can't just, and if another person wants to partner with you to deliver it, like Seamless HR, there's also something in the works which you will see very soon. Uh, please make use of it, and we're happy to partner with you. And Bastion also they're doing great. We use them at Seamless HR. We onboarded them recently. They've been doing really well. So between Bastion and Seamless HR, you've already done 50% of the work.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ma. Thanks everyone for joining. See you in our next session. Thank you again once. Thank you, Ma, for joining also. Thanks
Thank you,
everyone.
everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.